Asia Johnson has graced us with her presence this evening, and Asia is from 61 and 1, which is a very interesting name, which I want you to explain because the story behind
Yes.
it's pretty cool. But we're talking tonight about conquering burnout on your journey to becoming a BCBA. And this is not just for those of you who are on that BCBA journey. It's also for you business owners out here who Asia can provide help with to help you prevent your employees from burning out. So we always know like the struggle with finding new employees is always extremely difficult, but that can be offset by keeping the great team that you already have. And preventing burnout is a major part of that. So we want to talk about some strategies for both the professionals that are on their journey and also some strategies that can be adapted from that for business owners. So Asia, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to touch on this topic because I feel like, especially as we dive into Q2 of the year, so quarter two is approaching us, or we're already here, really trying to set ourselves up for the second half of the year, right? So gearing up for quarter three and quarter four to make sure that we're recognizing, when burnout is happening, whether it's at an individual level or at an organizational level, if you are a business owner, with really understanding staff retention and what's going to be best for everyone. And so I'm super excited to be here tonight. And as Derek's mentioned, I am the founder of Season 61 and 1 LLC, which is a consultancy firm that focuses on just helping individuals navigate the corporate space of ABA. I specifically focus on marginalized women within the field because it's an underrepresented group. I'm a Black woman within the ABA, and then the demographics are pretty scarce. And so I've always wanted someone to either reach down or help me in some level of a mentorship capacity or a coaching mindset or framework. And it never worked out. And I kind of had to craft this community of my own just so that I can reach down for folks who maybe like me are struggling or looking for a mentor or looking for a coach in one sense or another. And so the actual mission or the name originated from a verse that was inspired from a time in my life when I was going through a lot. I was maybe 15, 16. And my mom brought me to a church in New Orleans, and the Reverend was named Reverend John Jock. And he gave me a book and he talked to me about just having a purpose-filled life and really acknowledging why, we're doing some of the actions that we're doing. And one of the scriptures that he wrote in the Bible, or not the Bible, the book in front of the book, was Isaiah 61 and 1. And I crafted my mission solely based on that because I stumbled into this field because my daughter's autism diagnosis few years back. It was a very tumultuous time for us. It was just challenging getting her proper evaluation as a Medicaid recipient. I wanted to do everything in my power to help her. And so I ended up taking an RBT course just so that I can learn some of the behavior analytic strategies just to kind of help her. And inadvertently, I met a client as I took on my first role as an RBT, and I fell in love with the field. And the rest has been history. So I kind of went up every tier system. But reflecting back on that book, there was the scripture in Isaiah that touched on really just being anointed to announce good news to people, being sent to comfort those whose hearts maybe have been broken, and to announce that freedom is a possibility, that you can set captives free. And I felt like going through understanding ABA and the knowledge behind the science of the field, I have been able to set myself free, essentially. I remember, sitting on a sofa and reading a book by Catherine called Let Me Hear Your Voice. And I mean, sobbing the entire time, not understanding how I was going to help her, what was next for me career-wise, being that I now have a child who maybe have to have extensive levels of servicing and trying to just juggle work and it all. And so that's why, I created the company more so to help other people and to extend just a ladder down for other people to step up, because it's hard recognizing when you're going through burnout or when it's approaching you. And so I think tonight's discussion will be super eye-opening because sometimes we're burnt out and we don't even realize it. And so really just navigating how to go about working in the ABA space and beating.
Yeah, I think it shows your heart and your spirit, Asia, that you've already taken that road of hard knocks, and you've already kind of gone through all this, and what kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like your inspiration to join and become part of the cause of the ABA industry was your own internal family inspiration. So that was enough motivation for you to push through and overcome all the challenges that were in your way. But a lot of us are looking at this from a career standpoint and saying, okay, this is something I can do. I enjoy this, but maybe they don't have all of that inspiration behind them to push them through all the challenges. So it's really important that we have some kind of a support system, and thankful for people like you who are actually willing to put that ladder down for those that are coming up the hill behind you and push them along. So what is your mechanism with seizing 61 and 1? What is your mechanism for helping the individuals that are on that journey? What does that look like as far as your mentorship and training and things like that? How does that work?
We have a couple of different tracks available. However, the one that's typically utilized the most is our mentorship track for individuals who are on the path to become a BCABA or a BCBA. A lot of times within a master's program, the curriculum is not set up specific to someone working within the autism population, because the graduate program has a lot to cover within behavioral analytics. So it's not solely autism specific when you're going to school. And so they can't, pigeonhole the curriculum at this time to focus solely on clinical application. And so once you graduate, if your experience hours did not afford you a grandiose idea of what your role is like as a BCBA, you can end up in a situation where they're kind of expecting you to hit the ground running. And if you don't have a leg up to understand some of the intricacies of the role in a clinical application setting, you wouldn't really thrive. And it's a challenging field to navigate. And I think that through the on-demand mentorship, we just started it as a caveat to our live mentorship, where we would speak, excuse me, I'm sorry. We would speak to individuals and follow them through a 3-month period where we're giving them coaching experiences that range from calls that's as simple as literally objectifying your goal for yourself so that it's measurable, just like we would do for our clients. Because if the goal isn't attainable, how are you going to reach success? And so really having them think about career-wise or just professionally or personally, what is your goals by the end of this 3 months, and making sure that it's, something that they can measure and see whether or not they're making strides to reach that goal. We bring them through branding coaching with different individuals within the coaching space, not necessarily the ABA space, because you have to understand that when you are graduating from a college, or maybe you've gained your experience hours and it's time for you to sit for your exam, there's going to be a ton of companies that are going to come to you and say, okay, I have all of these different packages I can offer you. This is the salary. This is the caseload that you're going to get. But you also have to brand yourself as a professional so that you can also understand that it's not the companies that's also seeking you, but you should be seeking out companies and interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you, because you never know where you're going to end up. And, we have an awesome group here where there's different business owners. We're coming together. We're asking, about different challenges. We're getting different scenarios of how maybe another company may do it. But if you ever kind of dig deep, you really see that there's different intricacies within organizations that business owners are facing. And so if you're able to kind of make sure that you understand your values, you understand your end goal, whether that's to be within a clinic setting or maybe be in the field setting, possibly have a caseload of whatever is your ideal size. The way that the mentorship cohort is designed is to help you seek out opportunities that'll align with what's like your passion. I know you talked about like my inspiration. And so I always tell people to connect with your why, because if you're in this field for money, I advise you to turn around. Like, if this is not the field where you're gonna like have this get rich quick scheme and like come up on a whole pile of money, like it's some hard work. And then if you really break down, like the time commitment that it may, encompass, depending on which setting you're in and your client caseload size and all of those metrics that come into being a BCBA, really making sure that your passion is there and your why is recognized pretty early on. And so our mentorship cohort really dives into that. We go over salary negotiations, resume reviews, all type of in-depth things just to kind of prepare them for what to expect. We touch on billing just a tad bit in that cohort, just so they understand not only the reimbursement rates that maybe their business owners or organizations that they work for are potentially gaining from insurance, but also understanding what does it mean for an organization to have overhead as well. A lot of times people see dollar signs, they don't fully understand the breakdown of business. And so we try to make sure that they're understanding and seeing both sides when they're thinking about their ideal salary. We talk to them about market research and making sure that they're fully understanding not only the number that's being presented to them, but the entire compensation package. And so that's, one of our caveats for those that are aspiring to be within a clinical leadership role. Whereas we also take on more of an executive coaching role where we meet with possible BCBAs who are thinking about going in the independency consultancy route. So coaching them so that they can do some of the same mechanisms of branding themselves, marketing themselves correctly, finding their target audience, because a lot of times we don't realize how much leverage we have, especially when we, can specialize within certain areas if that's where we're strongest at. So really making sure that we're capitalizing on what is already ours and our knowledge and touching on the sweet spots where we're understanding what's important overall for us as individuals. And so there's a couple of different tracks. There are some free ebooks that's always available for folks, whether that's touching on emotional intelligence or this very topic about just beating burnout. And so there's definitely a lot of different things that we have to offer outside of remote supervision and then clinical services for individuals who have autism or any other form of neurodivergence.
Awesome. And you cover so much. So on the journey from, say, somebody who is a family member of somebody who is on the autism spectrum, or somebody who needs an ABA therapy altogether, when that person is starting off and they're going through school, what are the types of things that they don't learn in school that they tend to get broadsided with on that first week of work, right? Or, the first week of actually working. There's going to be a lot of training and stuff involved with any company they go work for, hopefully. But when they come out of that training and they go in and they start executing their initial day-to-day, what are the kind of things they get broadsided with that tend to catch them by surprise?
I believe it's a couple of different things, but I think the top thing is leadership skills. I think that no matter if you are a BCABA or a BCBA, you will be responsible for managing your particular team. And yes, certain organizations allow you to have the support system of a clinical director or a program director, maybe even a managing behavior analyst that can step in and help and offer some support. But your ultimate role is to supervise a team of behavior technicians or RBTs, depending on state requirements, to implement your behavior intervention plan successfully, as well as your skill acquisition goals. And so your leadership capacity can definitely be something that is taking you for a loop, because they don't touch on it. They just don't touch on understanding other people and navigating other people in that interpersonal relationship that's needed, addressing our biases, not only with our clients, but within our staff, right? Also understanding how to not only manage our own burnout, but manage our staff burnout as well, which is why I love that you talked about, how owners of organizations can use some of these like approaches that we'll be talking about just to make sure that they're able to, you know, step away from the mentalism aspect of things, of making it all about emotions, and how can we objectify work performance, right? Like what are those key performance indicators that we typically see start dropping when a person is experiencing burnout, and being able to recognize that not only within ourselves, but within our teams. And so I would say the number one thing is just understanding how to run a team of individuals, because everyone is going to be different. And so, early on, really, making sure to take those leadership courses if possible, go on a track where you understand a little bit more about the business of ABA, I think is important for BCBAs. And the reason why I say that is because in order for you to be satisfied, right, with the salary that you have and the job that you're performing, you have to be able to understand how much the company is even able to pay you before you're screaming that you're undervalued, right? I think a lot of times we're, kicking our feet and screaming because we had these high expectations of maybe what we presume, BCBA should be valued or worth. But until you're there doing the hard numbers and understanding the overhead of a company and understanding what the insurance is actually reimbursing these organizations, then that value number isn't necessarily something that you're angry about at the organization. You're more angry with the insurance funders, and maybe we'll see more policy change go to play because we'll have more people advocating for the policy change versus that their organization sucks because they're not paying them correctly, right? So like really making sure we're understanding the business side, I think, is important. And they just don't touch on that within our graduate program, well, at least in mine and in several of the mentees that I've had. They just don't get that level of understanding within their graduate programs.
Yeah, one example I use all the time is my best friend's brother is a dentist, and the way he describes dental school is you basically get an MBA, and then they teach you some stuff about teeth, right? Like they do all the business stuff in dental school because most dentists go out and start their own practice. Most of them are in independent practice. So, but when you look at like med school, the doctors don't get all the business training because most of them are going to go work for hospitals. But there's enough of those doctors that are opening their own practices that gap gets filled by companies that can come in and just stand up a doctor's office for you, right? Like
Right.
you can, if you're a doctor and you want to go start your own practice, I mean, in a couple months, you can have a fully operational website, doctor's office, practice management system, like the whole thing stood up, and you're going to spend some money on it, but I mean, it's turnkey, right? And
Right. And same for ABA, same for the field of ABA.
yeah. And but what I've noticed is it's not quite as built as far as the solutions that need to go into place for those ABAs, for those ABA businesses. So there's more like picking and choosing. Number one, there's a lot more variation in the delivery models and the style of every ABA. So it's really hard to just say, here's an ABA in a box that's going to fit everybody. Number one. Number two, there's not enough resources out there to fill in all the gaps that really need to be filled. So, BCBAs who want to start their own business are kind of in this position where they haven't been informed or taught, how to really run a business, but they also don't really have all the resources out there, which is a big reason for this group, trying to get all those parts and pieces in together. People like you that can come in here and start filling all those gaps for them. So along those lines, what kind of programs do you have in place? If I'm a ABA owner and I want to, get your help to come in and start working with my employees as a group, or training me on how I can work with my employees to start, doing those like burnout prevention things. I know you can do the kind of the like you mentioned, the key performance indicators, right? Like what are the signs that burnout is on its way, right? So what kind of packages, how can I hire you as an ABA owner to come in and help implement one of those programs?
Yes, and so that would be something we do more so as consultancy services, right? So we would consult with organizations and see what's already working and where their trouble points. There is every organization is going to have successes, and so we don't want to go in and tell them, "Hey, like tell me all the things that's going bad," because I want to see what's going good to gauge the company culture as is and see, okay, what's already working for you. And then once we figure out what's already working for them, we kind of compare it to the system that they have parallel to staff retention, for example. And so if staff retention is a concern, how are we making sure that we're mitigating burnout before it even happens? What resources are we already providing with individuals at day one? Because every person's burnout is going to be different. Some people may come in with burnout and some people may not, but it just depends. And so that's why the ebook is titled Before Becoming a BCABA and Before Becoming a BCBA. Is because the work demand that a person has just before becoming a BCBA or a BCABA is so extensive that we forget that there is the potential that people are entering the career space with burnout already on their shoulders or literally right behind them, chasing them. Because we have, people who are working, going to school simultaneously at times while also gaining their experience hours. And so really meeting with the organizations and seeing what systems do you already have in place. What does supervision look like? Is it an easy experience for your practitioners? Is it an easy experience for those that's upcoming and going through the program? How do we know that these things are working? What mechanisms have you already utilized to weigh out, whether or not your staff is happy, relaxed, engaged, right? That's what we like to hear for our clients. If our clients are happy, relaxed, and engaged, if they are in support of an SBT model. And so we want to pay attention to our staff as well and say, okay, are they happy, relaxed, engaged? When they come into work, are they already exhausted? Are we making them take some of these grading skills? Because all of that plays a role in how my day is gonna go, right? If I pulled into work and I'm already drained, there's
already done.
I'm like, listen, like the level of Asia that you're gonna get on a day where I'm already tired. This is I came in, right? I'm on one matcha and I drink matcha. I don't drink coffee anymore. I just drink matcha because I like the way it makes me focus. And so like let's say I'm one matcha in and I'm really focused and I'm on task, like, yeah, you're going to get a different Asia than someone who's lagging. And so really checking in with staff, really checking in with your company culture and really seeing, Josh said, I love my, that's funny. Really seeing how can we objectify things? And there is a really good article in the Journal of Organizational Behavior Management that touches on really conceptualizing job burnout through a behavioral lens. I believe the first author is Summer Bettini. I may have butchered her name, but that article also goes into depth with just like understanding from an organizational framework, how can we make sure our staff is thriving and not coming into work already exhausted, asking what I'm matcha at, going to the break room and trying to get pick the freshest K cup that has the most caffeine in it. Like we need to have people more energized and really ready to go to work, because when they are, that's when the creative juices go to flowing, right? That's when we see more progress happening. And I think it's a trickle down effect. Same as burnout has a trickle down effect to our clients, to our parents and caregivers, so does making sure they're happy. And so if they're happy, it's going to just have a trickling effect, and they're going to motivate others. Same as if they have like someone who's already exhausted and they're telling everyone how they're exhausted, and other people like, wait, I'm exhausted too. Like if you have someone that's saying, look, I'm so pumped, like, listen, I took this questionnaire. I thought I was facing burnout, but I see how I can improve. I see what steps I need to take. I see how to better organize my time and really get in front of burnout. We're just going to see more longevity in our field overall. And so it will be a consultancy type of role within organizations to help them. But I think the key is really just individual aid. I think a lot of times, even as the organization is looking for maybe a consultant to come in and say, hey, let's fix this problem, really understanding their own values, right? So like when the company is coming to season 61 and 1, what exactly is your mission? Is it to make sure your profits are fine, right? Like if it's all about profits and your return on investment and it's not about human life and human value, then I think that's when we run into brick walls, right? Because if we are looking solely for profits and gains, we have to understand that other people's well-being and other people's values may also be lacking in something that they're motivated for, whereas the business owner may solely be motivated by that currency and that financial gain.
And if you have a vehicle that when you're driving it just to keep up with traffic or just to navigate safely, you have to keep the pedal floored all the time, you're doing something wrong. There's something wrong with that car. And if
Right.
you're running a business where all of your employees have to perform at 100% all the time and you've got that pedal to the metal, there is something wrong with that business. And one of the concepts that business owners across any industry, sometimes we have a mental block with this concept, but you cannot expect somebody to come in and be sprinting all day long, every day of the week, and just be completely power forward all the time. Like you wouldn't drive your car that way. You cannot run your employees that way. And Josh is listening to this. He's thinking, "Oh, I'm going to back off a little bit. I'm going to take the foot off the pedal." but like you can't. I think a reasonable expectation is going to be somewhere around the 65% mark constant, right? Always expecting about 65%. And then, at peak when you're really pushing hard, you might need, Josh said, see you in a few weeks. I'm going to Hawaii. But if you got to push the throttle up there a little bit, to 85, 90% for a little while you're making some kind of transition, that's good. But putting an employee in a position where they can perform, and I'm not saying to only care 65%. I'm saying not having to push your, runners train and they get better at running and they get their heart rate. They train their cardio system so that their heart rate is lower when they're running, right? That lower level of exertion, I guess you could call it, where you're not pushing all the time to get that done. So I think, a lot of us business owners tend to overload our employees. We push things on them. Plus, you're a business owner, so you're probably running at 105 to 115 all the time, but you own the business, right? You got to back off. I mean, just because you're putting in a 20-hour workday doesn't mean that everybody else is supposed to do the same thing. So,
Right.
what is one of the questions was, what do I do if I'm already burnout? What is your like emergency ration kind of CPR thing to help somebody get through the next few weeks or few months until they can get to you and join one of your mentor programs?
Right. I think that that's an awesome question. And I think first of all, I'm glad whoever asked this question, because that's the thing. A lot of us we're already there. We're already burnt out. And so what's next? And so I would say really, really take advantage of some of the programs that maybe your employer has. A lot of times there are employee assistant programs where they offer you CBT or cognitive behavior therapy, or maybe even DBT for those individuals who are already there. And then sometimes, depending on the organization, they give you maybe 4 or 5 visits for free. And so that'll at least get you to a professional who maybe specializes specifically with burnout, because it is a mental health condition at the end of the day. There are people who are experiencing suicidal ideations, after they are already burned out, wondering how they can figure out how to get off from work. If you have PTO days, I advise you to take them and really center yourself and understanding your why, right? So doing a little bit of self-reflection, a little bit of journaling, and really pinpointing, hey, when did I start, unraveling? Because it's just like when we're on a computer and we have a web browser up and we're really going, that's one of the days we're really pumped on our matcha or our caffeine, and we're like clicking tabs and you have a million tabs up, but you don't realize it until you're trying to download or upload something and your computer is lagging and it's going super slow. And you're like, oh, wait, I have 1,000 tabs already going. And so like, same thing for your life. Like if you are reflecting, right, and you say, okay, these are all the things that I'm tackling, really asking yourself, okay, based on the things that I'm tackling, why am I tackling each thing? And then also doubling down and saying, why am I tackling them simultaneously? sometimes we don't have an option, right? Like I was a single mom, I was working, I was also a mom of 3. I was trying to go to college, I was trying to get my experience hours. However, like, you know, hindsight is 20/20. And so like I can say like maybe I could have, right, slowed down a little bit. Like, why was I rushing? Why was I going to school full time while working full time, while gaining my experience hours? At the time it was considered concentrated. So like making it like 10 times harder than it had to be for myself. And so really asking yourself why you're doing it. And if your reason is, okay, I am in a tight spot and I know that becoming a BCBA is going to make me more money, right? There's always that money aspect there that I'm pushing through so that I can be better or that I can do better. But if I can give my old self advice, is that I made it. Even though it was hard on my behavior technician salary, I made it. And I'm a BCBA now and I'm still making it, right? So it doesn't get easier. Like your bills will get bigger. Everything will get bigger. Like, you know, depending on the person, right? There are some people that will say, well, actually, I'm a minimalist. Nothing's going to change, but my bank account's going to get bigger. However, your bank account can only get bigger and it benefit you if you're here and able to enjoy it. And so if you're already at the point of burnout, really asking yourself, why am I rushing and who am I racing? And really just pump the brakes a little bit. Other than the employee assistance program, there's definitely different groups that you can join that focus solely on burnout. You know, that I think that it's just a matter of really doing a little bit of self-reflection and really pinpointing everything you're doing and finding out your why.
I'm going to get in trouble, but this is my favorite webinar yet. Because what you're talking about is not specific. I mean, I know you're specialized in ABA and the RBTs and the BCBAs, but the sermon that you're delivering right now, a lot more people need to hear it too. Owners need to hear it for ourselves, for any business, ABA owners especially. Like you need to be self-reflective enough to know when to pump the brakes, because again, all the success that you're earning, all the empire that you're building, this huge impact that you're making on society in a positive way, you're only going to be there to enjoy it if you're still there to enjoy it. And if it's coming from a place where you've got such a bad taste in your mouth from all the things that you had to do and everything you had to put yourself through to get there, you want to look back on all that hard work with, as a fond memory, not like, God, that was hell, but really, really good talk, Asia. So the business owners can reach out to you. They can bring you in. You can help do some coaching on them as far as helping to retain their existing staff, helping to prevent some burnout. If you're already in the field and you're already feeling burnt out, pump the brakes. If you're working for a small provider, and also, you can post anonymously on the feed on our group. And there are a lot of people who, when you join the group on Facebook, one of the things is like the reasons why you're joining the group. And one of them is blow off steam. Everybody checks the blow off steam button. It's almost like 100% across the board. Like, yeah, I'm here to learn. I'm here to get some resources, and everybody's here to blow off steam. So you can definitely share anonymously if you wish, share your problems, your struggles, because there's going to be a lot surprising. It'll probably surprise you how many people out there have had that same struggle. And once you can connect with somebody like Asia, who can tell you she's seen all the struggles, so she's been where you are, and then connect with her. So business owners, reach out to Asia, set her up to come in and do some consulting for you to help prevent burnout for your employees. An investment in a program like this, an investment in your time and some treasure to make sure that you're saving on that long-term cost of having to find a replacement for a burnout employee, or having to find or having to train a replacement once you find them, all to just start this whole cycle of burnout over again. Stop the madness, pump the brakes, get some help in this area, start to focus in on it, gain some knowledge, gain some understanding there, and then that's going to help you. And then obviously your mentorship programs for people getting through this. I have a feeling that people that go through your mentorship program often probably take these things back to their companies and help to kind of spread that knowledge out too. So you probably have a lot of good ambassadors out there for you already.
Yeah, they are amazing. One lady in particular, she just went through our most recent cohort, and she was talking about how she was able to take back just to the other BCBAs the importance of just like professional branding yourself, like having a personal brand for yourself and setting yourself up, because people underutilize, platforms like LinkedIn where you can network, and the field is not as big as people think it is. It's pretty small. So chances are you will come across some people that you either know or know of. And I was on a call yesterday where I was referred for something, and I have no clue who the person is that referred me. And so it's not that it's a client and I missed, I know all of the people that I coach, but this is just a person that maybe stumbled across my work and was like, this is the person that you should connect with. And so really making sure that who you are presenting to the world is who you want to be known for, and really setting yourself up for success. And so I was super happy to hear that she was talking about it with the other BCBAs about just like really understanding your why, because when you dive into like the branding aspect of the cohort, it talks about like really discovering your why, because you will need a why. There was a podcast I was listening to a long time ago by Tabitha Brown, and she talked about like the difference between like dreams versus goals, right? And how like people, have all of these dreams, and it's just a difference when it's your dream up to do something versus a goal. It's like your drive for it is totally different. And so if a business owner's dream was to always open a clinic, their drive is going to be on steroids versus someone who maybe, I love working with kids who have maybe developmental disabilities, and I thought it would be so fun. And then they get there and they're like, holy, like I have a lot to do. And this company wants me to do like 3 times more than what I did at my old company. And so really making sure that when we're asking people to do more, there is a reason, and it's not just our passions that we're trying to push off on other people.
Well, these are not my words, but I can't remember where I heard them, but dreams are in your head and goals are written down. All right, so you have some resources you're going to leave behind here for us to distribute out to the group, and we'll include them in the comment on the video. So tell us about that. What are you leaving behind here that people might be able to use?
Behind a free ebook called Beating Burnout Before Becoming a BCABA or a BCBA, and it touches on 3 core sections. And so really just recognizing burnout, the potential stressors that most aspiring practitioners have, and then learning how to build resilience, because this is a field you're going to have to get tough skin. There's going to be clients that you know nothing about, and it's okay to say, I don't know, this is out of my scope of practice, right? I think a lot of times we feel the need to say we know it all, because that's the feeling that the field gives. It's like, this is a person, they need help, we need to help them, like help them. And we're like, well, actually, I don't know if I can help them. And it's fine to say that, right? So setting those boundaries, building that resilience, building that tough skin to be able to stand up for yourself, right? And really just go through that material, and it'll kind of point you in the right area as far as like, what are some of those core identifiers. As always, there is at the back of the ebook, they'll have different I guess mechanisms where you can kind of get in contact with me if you need like additional coaching calls or additional pointers on how to beat burnout and move forward. But the journey is definitely going to be a wild ride for sure, but it's all about making sure you're setting yourself up for success, because we want you to have longevity in our field. We don't want it to be just a stop along your journey. We want to make sure that everyone is thriving and successful in beating burnout.
Asia, that's awesome. We're going to put all of Asia's information is going to be in the comments below the video on the feed. We'll make sure that the link to download her ebook is there. And if you are feeling burnout, but also even if you're not feeling burnout, you're probably going to be there eventually one day. And it's important to have those tools in your toolbox so you know how to deal with it when you get there. So we don't carry spare tires around because we have a flat right now. We carry those spare tires because we might have a flat. So make sure that you prepare for that kind of stuff ahead of time. And again, Asia, thank you for being part of our group. Number one. Number two, thank you for taking the time to come on here and give us share some of your experience and expertise.
Well, thank you for having me, Derek. Thank you for having me, Josh. And I'm so glad you were able to join live, Nanette, and anybody who's in the comments. If y'all have any questions, I'll make sure to circle back and see if I can respond in a moment. If not, he'll provide all the ways to contact me.
Awesome. Godspeed, Asia. Thank you.
Bye.